Jason, thank you for joining me.
Good to see you, Adam,
Really
as always.
appreciate it. Do you want to introduce yourself to listeners and also your chosen topic and why, if that's okay?
Yeah, no worries. My name's Jason Sammon. I work for a company called co-founder of FL1 Digital. So we've been doing that for over 20 years now. Also, my part-time, I work for a company called Step It Up. I'm the lead trainer. I teach a boot camp. So when I'm not kind of talking to people about code, I'm teaching people. And I'm also fractional CTO of a company called Board North. So we'd do anything to do with AI. So I managed to keep myself spread over 3 roles doing that. And I guess that brings me into contact with a lot of people, which is today's chosen subject is dealing with difficult personalities.
Yeah, okay. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there. I think when we were first talking about this topic and discussing it, we sort of started off with difficult clients and then
Yes.
sort of merged it into difficult people. So for those who don't know, FL1 Digital was a digital agency.
Yeah, that's it. Where you build apps, websites. Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So when did you first experience a difficult client, and how did that feel, I guess, at the time?
Oh gosh. I suppose there was one particular client that actually we became very, very good friends off the back of it, but very tough, hard-nosed Indian businessman. He knew that we were just starting up, and I think he did take advantage of that somewhat. But actually, he did teach me an awful lot of lessons, to be fair. But yeah, I guess that was probably within the first year of us trading, and I just was not equipped to deal with this whatsoever. It was very much kind of bullying, kind of personality, I guess, and just, I guess, using techniques to just keep us constantly on the back foot with everything and feeling out of control. I mean, I guess the term I didn't know what we use now, but maybe didn't so much know then, is whole sort of gaslighting, kind of a degree of that as well. And of course, then you end up in a situation where you're second guessing yourself, you're doubting yourself, it knocks your confidence, and you're just almost scared to get that email in the inbox and that phone call and to deal with that. You're just totally feeling way out of your depth. And of course, that has a problem because obviously you're running a business, you've got your team working on those kind of projects as well. Your biggest fear is that kind of rolling over to them, because you're the guy in charge. The buck stops with you. And suddenly you're really way out of your comfort zone with something like this. And I don't know, it was a very, very difficult, stressful time to go through, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But we did learn a lot off the back of it.
Filled with anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you feel at the time in terms of, I guess, how did you get through it? Like, how did you come out of your way? It sounds like an ordeal. I can already see it in your face.
It was a little bit. Weirdly enough, actually, one of the kind of turning points is we went out for a beer.
Nice.
We just went to the restaurant, I think, had a couple of bites, and then we'd hit a lockerhead about something that wasn't working and the scope creep and everything else and all the rest of it. And then usual stuff, the client then's got leverage on you because they're setting out that actually this was in scope and this is my expectations. You've not met them, even though it wasn't in scope, and you're kind of having this sort of barrier. So they've kind of got this leverage over you because they've set out this idea that you've failed, and of course then you sort of backed into a corner on it. And I suppose, yeah, it was just one of those things, but I guess maybe sheer luck. We kind of went out to an Italian restaurant, had a few beers, went off topic, got talking about something, I can't remember what it was. I think we were both petrol heads, actually.
Okay.
And then in the end, it was almost one of those like, do you know what? Should we just do that? All right. And because he knew he had leverage over me, and it just sort of smoothed things over. I feel I was incredibly lucky that it could have been easily a situation where it hadn't gone that way. But I think probably looking back, maybe it wasn't so much the alcohol, but more that just taking yourselves out of that regular setting and going somewhere else, because it was also one of those situations which I look back now and it seems obvious, but he'd never come and see us ever. And it was one of those businesses where it was a retail business, but they're in head office. We'd always have to go and see them. You got to come in and see me. So it was constantly on their territory the whole time. And I think that actually helped because it probably gave them that kind of upper hand, that sort of control. So I think actually in the end, going somewhere that was neutral, independent, probably made a bit of a difference as well, truthfully.
Yeah. It sounds like, I think you're exactly right. Take yourself out of the situation.
Yeah.
And he saw you as a person.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than just a digital marketing agency, a digital agency on the other end of the phone.
And I have seen sometimes those sort of in projects past that point of view where you don't get it so much now with COVID, because now it's a bit more acceptable to do things over Teams and Zoom, etc. But certainly back in the day, it was like, no, I'm not going to come and see you. No, you need to come and see me, and that sets a precedent. And I found even then, after that, pushing back a little bit and going, no, you come and see us. And insisting on that, suddenly it did change that dynamic and balance it off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess the dynamics often that you can feel is that you put the client on a
Mm,
pedestal and you
mm.
are, yeah, you feel below them, I guess, sometimes. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not a good place to
Well, it's
be.
the classic one we hear about with a certain American president, isn't it? My chair is up, yeah, yours is down there. It's all very kind of calculated, but I think there's a degree of that, though, isn't it? You're going to someone else's territory.
Yeah,
You're on their terms.
100%. Did it feel, did it ever feel personal, I guess? Did you take it personally?
I think you do. I don't think it was ever meant personally,
Mm.
but you do. I think it's inevitable. I think if you said, no, I'll never take it, I think you'd be lying, surely. I think you do, don't you? You do doubt yourself. And I did very much feel myself in a situation where you were just kind of trying to find a big red button that you could just push and just open up the ceiling and kind of be taken out of it. And of course, that button is just not there sometimes. I think the other thing actually is you don't want to talk to anyone about it because you feel embarrassed, you feel a little bit ashamed, and you might talk to your. I was lucky enough to have a business partner, but looking back, is he'd never met them, so suddenly it just becomes this client that's really taking advantage. So perhaps if I'd have got him a bit more involved and gone, come and meet him, actually, you form a better position, that might have helped because suddenly then you're kind of put on the front row and you're having to deal with this situation. And
Yeah.
it's easy for your business partner to go, oh, don't stand for it. You should just be telling them that. Well, all right, you stand in this chair and say that, yeah, in theory. Yeah, but I think talking to other business owners about it, because I wasn't doing so much networking back then, and I think these days, people will talk about that. There's lots of groups around that. There's lots of safer environments, networking groups, and you can have those kind of conversations. I don't think there maybe was quite so much, or maybe I wasn't aware of it. But I think it maybe is a bit taboo. You're a bit too proud to sort of say, I'm really struggling with something. And something as silly as dealing with a client, because everyone just goes, oh, yeah, but, it's just clients, though, isn't it?
Mm.
But there's every so often that one that really affects you more than just being that client. And this is one of those situations. I think we all have them, but nobody really wants to own up to it.
Yeah. I do hope that is getting better because you're right. You do need to talk about it because it can, I don't know, you tell me, but you can feel very lonely in that space. When you're going through that. Shouldering it all. Do you feel you got better at not taking difficult people, difficult clients personally now? Like, is it a bit more like water off duck's back, or does it still catch you out and you're like,
yeah, I think so. On the whole, there's still the occasion one, the sort of person that rubs you up the wrong way. That's rare. But I mean, most of the time, I think you've got to, I think you develop a little bit of empathy. So you think, well, okay, you try and put yourself in their shoes and go, well, there's got to be a reason for this. I think maybe the challenge around that, though, is I guess I've got used to that and adapted to that and learned and realised you mustn't take it personally. We're all just trying to get somewhere at the end of the day. Where it is a bit more of a challenge, I guess, is with my team. And again, maybe not so much the older ones, but bear in mind, of course, a lot of what I do is I teach people in boot camps. So they're coming up to me and saying, right, I want to get into the tech industry. It's my dream. And you're like, all right. And I'm trying to say to them, guys, the reality is the code, you might think that's your problem now because they're stuck on JavaScript or PHP and they're just caught up in that. And I'm like saying, in the grand scheme of things, that's the easy bit. It's the deadlines and the clients and, the people side of things is actually the biggest challenge. And they find that even within the bootcamp, they do 2 projects where they're working with other people to deliver a project for their first time. And suddenly, it's fine writing your own code. Suddenly you're working with 2 other people and one guy's got his camera off or is not turning up or is not that good and lying about where he actually is. Those are always the challenges. And I think that's deliberately I've put those exercises in there so you can realize that the code isn't your problem. But in my business, again, it's the same thing. You get kind of people come out of boot camps or new starters come into the business that have never really had to deal with these kind of challenges. So there's a big piece in trying to make sure that they're not taking things personally if things start to go awry or whatever reason, or even just, again, I guess it's different personality types, and that sometimes, as we know, you might get that client that's really to the point on the email. And it'd be very easy to look at that and go, well, that's a bit rude. And you think, well, that's not really, it's just the way that they are, and it's nothing personal. If you've ever met them, they're actually very nice. But it's sometimes where you see that occasional flare-ups with your staff or their confidence is not, or something's been misconstrued. That's probably my biggest challenge now rather than myself.
Yeah, that is a challenge. Do you think there is a way of teaching people how to get better at dealing with what they perceive as difficult people, Or do you think they just got to go through the experience of it?
Um, I guess there's a little bit of both, isn't there?
Mm.
I suppose for me, one tool that really helped is I started getting a little bit geeky, a bit obsessive about disc profiling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you probably knew this was going to come. Yeah, which I thought was really, really useful. I remember seeing something like this many, many years ago at a networking group, and it was like, wow, that was really, really interesting. And there's a really engaged system. A lot of people got a lot out of it. And then we kind of built a disc profiling tool a while back. And then I guess I started talking to my team about it, and then suddenly they got into a situation there. They were like, "Oh, okay, so I understand that person's like that because of this." And you start, it becomes a bit of a game. Then it's like you're sort of trying to guess what each other's personality profile were. And then I think once people were able to look at that and go, "Yeah, actually, that is me. Yeah, I am detailed, or yeah, I am like the peacemaker, and I don't like confrontation." People sort of own that, and then it became a bit of a game. We started getting our clients involved, and the team were able to go, "Bet they're ID. I bet they're an I."
Yeah.
And then you could almost see it. I'd then talk to the client and go, "Yeah, I'd fancy having a go at this." And the amount were like, "What's this?" "Oh, I think, yeah, go on in. All right." I'll give this a little go. And then we're out having a bit of it just became a kind of a fun thing to do in meetings. And then you could just see it at the time. They're like, Heidi, yes, knew that. And it's become kind of, dare I say it, part of FL1 culture and dialect now, especially when you're onboarding someone. But it really has helped people to go, they're not just being difficult, they're just, you can understand where they're coming from. And that really has helped an awful lot. And another company I do a lot of work with, actually, is interesting. I was having a similar conversation with them, and they said, well, that's part of our recruitment process now. We'll do a personality profile with everyone. And I thought, that's interesting. So I guess maybe my question to you is that something you see a lot of recruiters doing, or companies, as actually making things like personality profiles part of the onboarding?
Hardly ever.
Really?
Hardly ever. So, yeah, companies just don't seem to do it. So many companies. So people I tend to work with are companies typically between 5 heads to 100 heads. There's some outside of that. But those people who are, founder-led companies, probably haven't implemented that as much. There are some of the bigger companies that have that part of their process. I think for me, it shouldn't be part of the process which discounts somebody, but I think it could be a great part of the process just to understand somebody when you bring them on board. So almost part of the onboarding process. So you could go, okay, well, I know how to manage this person better. Because that's where things fall down, right? You bring someone on board and you don't really know how they tick, and you've met them in interview stage, and they're the best version of themselves, and then they come into the business and it's very different after a couple of weeks. So I think they could be a massive part of it, but hardly ever.
Really?
Which is surprising, isn't it?
Because that's the thing. I mean, this other company, and it's something I'll almost certainly start doing. You wouldn't see it as a discrimination, but as you say, I mean, I've started working with various people, and they'll say, right, just to let you know, they're a ID. And you're like, okay, so I know exactly what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So sure enough, this particular individual, their idea of banter is good morning. That's bants done straight into it. Great. And I'm all right with that because I know exactly what to expect. So you know exactly what kind of animal you're dealing with. So no, I think it's been quite valuable. Just simple things, isn't it? Sometimes I know that there are much, much more, valuable personality sort of testing tools.
Yeah, but you can overcomplicate it as well. I think what you guys need, right, is when you're dealing with a client is I need a quick overview of what they're dealing with here. Gives you some empathy in terms of what the person you're dealing with and knows what communication style you need to work with. It helps. And it gives, from what I can tell, from what you've described, it gives the team confidence, right?
Yeah.
That, okay, I can go in and deal with this person.
Yeah. That's it. It's the confidence. It's not just me being funny. There's a reason for it. So you can kind of hang your hat on it and go, okay, I understand it. But I think also if you're going to have that meeting, you know that some personality types, there's no point in saying, how's the kids? And going through
they don't want that chit.
They don't want the chit chat. And there's others that actually, you could be too direct with and they do want that chit chat. So it's kind of just knowing where to balance that. And actually it's one of those things, the more you talk to people kind of implicitly know that, but never really thought about it.
Yeah.
You just know there's some clients that you're going to do a bit more of that than others,
And you've done it with your team, you said. So your team have all done the disc profiling.
Yeah.
How has that helped you lead and manage the team?
A lot, because I mean, we don't tend to get these kind of issues somewhere where, especially when your younger recruits get a little bit browbeaten or kind of feel a bit maybe overwhelmed with a client or don't know where to go with them. They at least understand them. I guess that then probably goes into the whole neurodiverse things. We got a couple of neurodiverse clients as well. And actually that's been quite useful because people have gone, all right, I recognise that. Whereas that and the subject in itself, I remember around about the same time as I had my first difficult client to deal with, I remember doing a meeting at St Albans, and it was a couple of ladies, and they both had ADHD, and they wanted to build a website to basically get ADHD out there because no one understood it. No one was talking about it. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So they were basically campaigners to say, we both massively neurodiverse. We suffer from ADHD. We want to tell the world about it. And I sat there like probably most people going, what? I never heard of that.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those things. I remember talking to other people and everyone else was like, I don't know, what's that? So that was 20 years ago, I guess, or 19. So I think things have come a long way. And I think now it's, you know, I have a lot of neurodiverse students as well. And again, it helps us because you're like, all right, I know where they're coming from. And I think luckily also for us, bear in mind, one of our members of staff has a very neurodiverse sister, for example, a sibling who we've all got to know. So that's actually been quite enlightening to all of us and sort of helped us understand that. Brilliant person, very gifted, but just knowing what those quirks are working for someone like that. And I think even, dare I say it, we've all just learned so much in the last 5-6 years about neurodiversity. And I think there's a lot of stigma gone with that, but I do feel it's quite sad sometimes when I hear my students going, well, you know, the big question we get, I'm sure you've had it as a recruiter, is do I say that with an employer? Because I don't want to risk my chances of getting a job.
Yeah. Yeah. We spoke about this with James Nunnally when we did the podcast about, managing teams with neurodiversity. And you're right, I get that a lot. Most people still don't feel comfortable disclosing because they're worried about the discrimination that comes along with it.
It's tricky though, because I don't have a problem with it. In fact, if anything, it's like, if I know, fine, we know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I guess not all employers are maybe equipped to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to, you should be able to disclose it to everyone, but the reason why people don't feel comfortable is because there is still discrimination out there, unfortunately, which is really tough.
Yeah.
I guess that sort of leads me on to, I think the old school phrase that people would say is something along the lines of, treat everybody fairly, which might mean treat everybody the same, can often lead to. But I guess what you're saying there, the disprofiling's meant that actually it's maybe best we don't treat everyone the same. We should tailor things to them, I guess.
Yeah, we're trying to accommodate people a little bit more, really understand where they're coming from. It's kind of basic courtesy, isn't it? If you think about it, when we deal with people in real life, we curtail our behaviour. I mean, I'm sure you act differently to your mates down the pub than you do to your grandmother, right? So we do these things instinctively without doing it. So it's a different thing, isn't it? It's just understanding kind of where people are coming from. Bear in mind, you don't always have the quite the same opportunity to build that relationship with your client. It's normally bang, 30-minute meeting, you're just talking about the website. So you don't have the opportunity to understand them a little bit more as a person. So I think sometimes things like that were quite useful. That means you could just kind of shortcut that a little bit. And you're, as you say, a bit more up to speed with them, and you know how better to deal with them.
Yeah, okay. Let's say I want to take it back a little bit to dealing with those difficult clients. And we spoke a bit about putting them on a pedestal, and sometimes they feel like they've got leverage over you.
Yes, yeah.
It always works best when you feel like you're on a level playing field. How have you got better at making sure from the outset that you and the client are on a level playing field rather than it feeling subservient to them?
Good question. I suppose as I've got older, I don't want to say wiser, but older, you just learn to stand your ground a little bit more. And I think also it's one of those things that is an experience thing. You do start to see red flags, some of the little things I sort of mentioned earlier, for example. So you can kind of step in from the outset and kind of, readdress some of those set expectations. And again, sometimes it's just knowing with certain types of clients, like you think, actually, I need to get this in writing. I need to cover myself. Whereas others, you can, take a slightly different view with. So I suppose a lot of it's recognizing those red flags, and then also trying to kind of educate your team along those lines, keeping your eye just across that project, not micromanaging, that's not my style, but being able to sort of help them spot those red flags as well.
Yeah. I guess because we're in a similar industry in terms of service level industry. I've gone through my own journey with this, and I definitely feel what's helped me is being incredibly clear at the beginning what I'm going to do. So this is what I'm going to do. This is what I need you to do to help make X outcome, and being really clear about that from the outset. And also going into that conversation, being very comfortable that if we can't agree to those things, that it's a no from me and we shouldn't work together. Now that is very it's easier said than done in practice, right? When you're running a business and you've got revenue, you've got people to pay. So if you can get there, I think it really helps, but it's difficult, isn't it? Have you put anything in place at the beginning to really set those expectations?
Yeah, ironically enough, if we're doing like a full proposal and like a big website project or something like that, we literally have a whole section, what we do, what you do, which kind of dumbs it down, but it is effectively the roles. It sets out an expectation that don't just say, build me a website, bring it to me in 12 weeks time, because it's not like that.
No.
I mean, our type of business, we're so entrenched in working with the client, really have to be, you know, we need so much from them. It's a very collaborative thing, sort of relationship, really. Probably more so than many other kind of businesses, I think, especially when you're dealing with something creative, because obviously you've got everything's very subjective, isn't it? You know, you could literally do everything that you've been delivered to do and then look at it and go, don't like that.
Yeah.
That's a big problem we've had in the past. Every so often when we get a big problem, it tends to be build it exactly like that. Well, I can't build it exactly like that because I don't care. Build it exactly like that.
Yeah.
All right. And because you know exactly at some point in a few weeks' time, I've seen another website, bored of that now, do that. That's always what happens in that sort of situation. So sometimes it's trying to suss out what do you think that might happen as well. And again, try to set those expectations. And I think experience has taught me the hard way with that. If you think it's going to be one of those, just say, sorry, this is not for us, which is tough.
It is tough, but your gut's usually right, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you start, like I say, you start to see those red flags and you can feel it coming to a head. Like, okay.
Number one is for that, just don't agents. Always. Blogs and Co got a new website. Well, can't you just copy it and just make it green and put my logo on it? No.
Okay.
Go away. Yeah.
So we talked about the disc profiling has helped you and your team have empathy, understand that people are, aren't trying to be rude on purpose.
Yeah.
It might just be sort of how they are. At times, though, people are rude on purpose and boundaries can be crossed.
Yes.
Have you had experience with that? And how do you manage that when that happens?
I've not had it often. I could probably 2 or 3 times in the last 20 years. And literally all I've done is just written an email and said, this is not acceptable. If you carry on like this, I'm terminating everything with immediate effect. I've had to do that 3 times over the years.
Okay, yeah.
Rare. Every single time the client's gone, yeah, sorry. And it's just escalated, maybe I should have done that more. But I think the first time it happened, we were dealing with a solicitor. They were very rude. Their website had gone offline. We'd taken this over from someone else, so I hadn't even set the whole thing up. And he was screaming and shouting at one of my team and saying, I'm going to sue you. We're losing millions of pounds an hour. The whole spiel, and had them in tears. And I was like, right, that's enough. Yeah. So each time it's just been a question of going, all right, that's a hard boundary you've crossed. But yeah, I've never had anyone come back from that. Most people go, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, okay, fine. I'm going to flip it again slightly. So we've had that with clients. Sometimes as a leader, you're managing difficult people.
Yeah. I've been quite lucky with that.
I was going to say,
I've been quite lucky.
Your recruitment process is clearly pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever managed something difficult? We don't need to name names.
No.
And how does that impact you personally when you're managing somebody who is proving difficult?
Dare I say it? I think the difficult people I've had in my business, this is going to be a bit controversial here, right?
Oh, I like controversial.
So we get the whole thing about, foreign people coming over here, taking our jobs, etc., that you sometimes hear. I've hired people from all nationalities, and anyone that I would consider to be a foreign national has been amazing. I've never, ever had any problems. I've always been respectful, and just been a great part of the team. The only people I've ever had problems with are white middle-class males. Just saying. Yeah, because there's a degree of entitlement. I guess recently I had a situation where we had one of our developers that was kind of like doing stuff on the side and using a lot of our code and framework and stuff. And then he literally cloned a theme that we'd built for one of our clients and just repurposed it. And then once I found out that had happened, obviously we had to go through a dismissal process, that kind of stuff. And I think the difficulty there is the fact that it just literally, I think pretty much everyone on the team was just really disgusted. It was like, if you needed to do something like that, we could have helped you or something. We could have come to some arrangement. Why did you? But I think what was difficult there is that the individual just refused to kind of acknowledge that there was a problem. And it's like, we're in the stall here selling tomatoes, and then you're nicking the tomatoes and going, I'm selling, it's just like, can you not see how this is just not right? It's a massive breach of trust. And then it just created quite a toxic culture, because nobody wanted to deal with this individual. And so we just had to find a way to get them out as quickly as possible. I've been very lucky. I don't think I've had any really toxic individuals within the business.
Yeah.
That is pure luck. There's another business I consult with that I would probably say our biggest challenge is maybe cash flow, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Whereas this other business I tend to consult with, they're much bigger than us. They've got an amazing culture, an amazingly talented teacher, but my God, the amount of HR issues they deal with.
Really?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, was when I'm meeting the founder, usually she's just letting off steam about the kind of conflicts. A lot of female staff in there as well. And it's all sorts of reasons, really. A lot of emotional support, confidence issues, those kind of thing. Just, they seem to have, I don't think it's them as a company. They're actually a very, very good company, very supportive.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, because I think I guess I've been lucky enough never to have that kind of problem in our business, but I have seen it a lot with others.
Yeah. Okay. I guess with the situation you're describing there with your business, that fact sounded like it was, the developer was fine. We found out he was doing something wrong. Okay, we have to dismiss. So it was actually quite a clean cut, quick process. It wasn't like it was dragging out and brooding the culture.
Sometimes you get a situation where someone's really not towing the line or something like that, or asking a bit too many questions, and I've told them 20,000 times, and then they're just not listening. And occasionally I've had situations with people like that, so everyone starts to lose confidence in that person of the team. They're not just not trying. I've had that kind of situation in the past.
Yeah. Does that drain you?
It does, because you're sort of thinking, actually, I think it was Nigel here that he said something to me a couple of years ago, that you should hire slowly, fire fast.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's damn good advice. So thank you, Nigel, for that. He probably doesn't even remember saying it to me, but I thought it was quite a good bit of advice. And I think actually that's been my biggest failure over the last 20 years. Because you get someone like that, it's just not fitting, it's not gelling or whatever. I suppose I've always felt a bit guilty, because you think, maybe I need to get you out of the business, but it's his livelihood and he's got a mortgage to pay and all the rest of it. I just hate doing that. Always looking back, I probably should have come to a decision and sort of either try to fix it and have that ultimatum, or say, we'll move it on.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the hardest things about being a leader and running a business is having to make those difficult situations, especially when, obviously I've got to know you well, you're a nice guy, having to make those difficult decisions.
Yeah.
That's right for the business, but maybe, it's going to impact somebody is super hard.
I think also, if you did something like that, my other worry is, you think, right, if I kind of line this up person and sort of, push them out of the business, does that then sort of say to the rest of the team, you might be next? I've never wanted that to be the case. So how do you manage that whole person? So I don't want to be there kind of bitching about someone, but kind of letting the team know that this isn't a good fit, this needs to go, but you guys are all right. Being blunt, it's trying to keep everyone kind of, I find that quite difficult to deal with that whole situation, to deal with that in the right way that keeps everyone feeling positive about the whole situation, if you like.
Is that something you still think is a challenge for you? Or
Yeah. It's nuanced, isn't it? I've had sort of situation like over COVID, I had exactly that. So I had to kind of maneuver someone out of the business because they just weren't the right fit. And then someone else was, does that? Started worrying, could I be next? And then they start looking around. You're like, no, you're fine. So that does worry me a lot. I've got to be honest.
Yeah. I've spoken to other founders in the past, and unfortunately, it is part and parcel of the role, isn't it? That occasionally you might have to move people out of the business, and you can frame it, and it probably is right. Frame it as like, look, this business isn't right for you as well, because this isn't working for both sides. So I think this is best for both for us at this point. And obviously, you need to go through all the formal channels and do all the process, but ultimately, a business isn't right for every person, just like I guess a client isn't right.
Yeah.
It's important not to work with anyone and everyone, and that applies to people that employees of your business and clients of your business as well. But it's damn tough. It never gets easier.
I don't think there's ever an easy way to do that, is there?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's say then that you've had a difficult client and they've impacted your team, and you mentioned at the start that actually most difficult client you had is now obviously a good client, you understand, you got some empathy.
Hmm.
How do you protect your team in that situation? And what's the right process to do? That's like really difficult to go, okay, my team's been,
Yeah. What do you mean after that or throughout the process?
I guess, after it's happened, I guess. Obviously, you can get ahead of it, great. But if it's just happened to a member of your team and team's just come up to you and said, Jason, I just had a really difficult call with this client,
Hmm.
and they might be upset. How are you managing that?
Oh, I see. I think I suppose my view also with this, I mean, is, you know, I suppose someone said to me, who's more important? Is it your staff or your clients? And I thought, that's a difficult question. You've got to pick one. Truthfully, rightly or wrongly, I think it's my team. I always look after them. I mean, Alex on my team is a good example. He stood up on my wedding. He said, Jason's like a dad to us. We didn't know that we needed another dad, but we've got one anyway.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
So I feel that there is that duty of care, right? I mean, if you're on this journey and you're kind of, you're in my team and we're all working to that same goal, they sort of are a bit of a family, and I do feel there is that sort of duty as a care to look after them however we can, if you're in that, if you're in that process. So I think I tend to kind of default to, let's assume that my member of staff is right and the client is wrong. That's a horrible, blunt way to put it. But I'd never kind of take the view of like, well, the client's always right. What have you done wrong? Because I know my team, and, I've hired them because we've all got aligned kind of values, I guess, ultimately, or I'd hope anyway. More often than not, that is the case. And so you kind of know at the end of the day, also, we're all trying to do the best for the client. So, and then also, I think you've got to understand, like there is anything in life, there's two sides to every story, isn't there?
Yeah.
And sometimes the truth is somewhere between the two. So it's a question of just, making sure that they know that they're supported. You can listen to them. You're not judging them. You're going to trust their word as best as you can. Sometimes you might have a situation where you've got to kind of have a word on the QT with the client, get their side of things. And it might be that one of your team has dropped the ball. It does happen, of course. But I guess I never want this sort of situation where my team are feeling sort of too micromanaged or scrutinized. And, it's trying to find that difficulty between the two. And I think sometimes I've found situations like that. It's just a question of once things, I think, never react straight away. You always got to sleep on it, give it a couple of days, etc. That's really important. Sometimes you are in a different situation. It's easy just to fire back.
Yeah.
And I had a situation like that a couple of weeks ago that really riled me, and I was like, walk away, come back the next day, and I think I'm glad I didn't react to that. And I suppose it's just that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's just a question of reframing it and saying, okay, so from their perspective, this, and this, how would you feel in that situation? And more often than not, someone will go, okay, if you put it to them that night, they go, well, actually, I would feel, yeah, all right. You end up getting there. But I guess occasionally, I'm sure you'll say, every so often I've got with certain men's words, there's someone that everyone's kind of got their bogeyman client sometimes, that person that really triggers them.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one.
You're always going to have it. But yes. I think if you, like you're saying there, if you have those difficult conversations with both your team and the client, I think real positive stuff can come out of it. You can really galvanize the team. Clearly what your employee was saying there at your wedding, like, they really respect, I think, when someone stands up for them. But,
yes.
That's not, no.
And that can go the other way sometimes. I've had situations where it's like, come on, man, you should be saying this. And they're starting to lose respect for you. And that is a difficult one because it's very nuanced, because you've kind of, in my role anyway, you've got to sit somewhere between your team and your client.
Yeah. And
you've got to be able to see both sides. And that's a difficult one.
That is tough.
Especially when the client's got a kind of a bit of, they do have some leverage and they do have a point. So that's a very tricky one, really.
Yeah. It's all situation, isn't it? And depending on what happens at a given time. Okay. So let's say someone's listening to this. They've had a rough week. They've dealt with some difficult clients. What would be the first thing that you say to them to maybe start to get on to road of recovery, getting back to a better place, either with that client or feeling better within themselves? What would be the first pieces of things they should do?
So they've got a particular issue with a particular person.
They've had a rough week with they've had a difficult conversation with a client.
Oh gosh, I mean, that's quite a broad question, isn't it, really? I think for me, the first thing you probably want to do is, and I don't do this enough, but the times I have done it, is it's very easy to get into a situation when you're feeling bad about it, you're browbeaten, you might turn to the pub, have a few beers. And the amount of times people say to me, just go for a walk around the block, get some exercise, and just, do something, just completely switch context. And actually, the times that I've done that, or gone down the gym or whatever you've got to do, and actually that's really, really helped. Because especially I spend way too much longer in the office, especially when doing the boot camp and stuff like that. So you never kind of fully close that and get all that stress off. That's an important thing to do. But I think, like I said earlier, sometimes, again, just switching context somehow, doing something different with that client, doing something on a different term, meeting up with them, doing something like that, that can sometimes help. Just try and think of doing something differently. Sometimes, actually, I've even found arranging to do it as a phone call rather than like a Zoom meeting or something like that. Just something slightly different.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised. It just changes it. The conversation's slightly different. We'll go a slightly different way. Yeah, something simple like that can help.
Yeah, break the norm.
Just break the norm, break that pattern, because it's all habitual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes, anything that will do that helps.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wish you'd known, you might have just answered that question, anything you wish you would have known earlier about how to deal with a difficult client? You know it all now, or most of it now?
No, certainly don't know it. No, I think, just maybe all those kind of red flags and some of those. I think actually, if there's one thing I really, really wish I'd have done a lot more earlier, is just say no.
Yeah.
Because you start up.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been the same with your business. First, find me a job. Yeah, no problem. Just take on everything, don't you? The power of no, yeah, exactly. That's probably my biggest failing, because I think you look back and the amount of times a red flag is there, or your gut's telling you, because the thing is, for us, if I take on a bad client or something that's the wrong fit, effectively, I might as well build the website for free and give them some money. It's just a loss leader.
Yeah.
And when you look at it like that, you go, actually, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Well, that's what you've just done. So you think because you're taking some money on, that you're making profit, but you're actually not.
No. Yeah.
So just having the confidence to go, thanks, but no thanks. I respect people that do that. I've got some good people I work with that are very good at that. And I'm like, damn, I wish I'd have done that.
What you're just saying there, I think, is a really good, know your numbers and know what time spent and what your profit margins are.
Yeah.
Because again, if you can put some clarity around it rather than just a feeling, it's much easier to say no. It's like, sorry, Mr. Client, the numbers just don't work on this project or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's it. If someone like, build my website so you can give me $1,000. If someone said that's what's going to happen, is that what you want? You were like, well, of course not. So, okay. But you do need to kind of put it in those terms sometimes.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Okay, fine. I'll come to a final question for the podcast. We ask everyone.
Go on in.
So someone's just stepped into a leadership role right now. What would be your first piece of advice to them?
Good question. Sounds obvious, right? And on top of personal experience, recognize the fact you are a leader.
Okay.
Because I've never really thought about that, because, I was running a company and, I've thought myself as a developer, or I'd never actually thought myself as a leader or a founder or a manager. If someone said to you, are you a manager? Well, I said, I kind of look after people, but I'm not a manager. So I never actually thought of myself like that. And it sounds really daft. You'd see training courses for leadership and motivated, and I'd look at that and go, that doesn't apply. It's not me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, honestly,
really
I just never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And then one day, many years ago, I did a leadership course, and I was like, I am a leader, and I found it insanely useful. And I was like, God, So I've always thought of myself as the techie developer, and I've always had that mindset. And that once I shift that and realize that I was a leader, and that actually, whether I thought of it or not, that's the reality of it, it did change my mindset. But I think really, truthfully, my advice would be just listen to other people, seek advice, because we do these kind of roles. And the other thing is, talk to your upline manager.
Yeah.
They've been through it before. We have this stigma of, I don't want to talk to them because that's failure. No, just look at their advice. Treat them as a mentor. I know that's not always possible, but more often than not, if you say, look, I could do with your help and advice. Actually, I've got this. What would you do? As opposed to, sir, I've got a problem. It's when you put it to people like that, most people are going to be like, yeah, sure, man. Come on, what's the problem? They talk about it. Share that kind of problems. Use other people's expertise. I especially see this in bigger companies. Nobody wants to ask another manager because it's a admission of failure, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. And you're so desperate, I think, especially when you first go into a leadership role. I'm going to do this well. I'm going to take on all the responsibility. I'm going to prove myself. I think it was another podcast I recorded, but it was, if you reframe your thought process there and said, if somebody had come to you and asked for some advice, about a job that you used to do, how would you feel? You'd feel probably quite honoured that they come and asked you.
Yeah,
you do, don't you? Really willing to help. So
Yeah.
it makes sense exactly what you're saying about going to seek out.
yeah.
It's not failure.
We know yourself, right? Anything to do with business development or anything, that H word is very, very powerful. The second you say, actually, I could do with your help or I could do with a favour,
Yeah.
that's a bit different to sort of saying, right, I want this.
Yeah.
It's about, I could really do with your help. Most people just switch gears and go, yeah, sure, man. What do you need? It just puts everyone into a different mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And do you know what I thought was really interesting that you said that. You didn't know you were a leader.
Yeah.
And I do
about
wonder how many people end in that situation, especially when they've come through the path of being a
tech
developer.
manager, entrepreneur, isn't it? Yeah.
100%. If you've been a developer and then you've sort of found yourself, I don't know, managing a dev team or building your own product and starting your own business, yeah, you probably see yourself as an identity still a dev.
Yeah, I'm a dev with other devs around me, my team, but you don't see yourself as a leader. It just never occurred to me.
Yeah.
Now I say it. Now I articulate it. It sounds the stupidest thing.
Because it's a different skill set.
Yes. I certainly wouldn't have called myself a manager. Not at all. Oh, they're just people that don't know what they're doing, that just have people pushing buttons underneath. That's kind of that stigma, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic advice. Really, really good. Okay, Jason, ready for some quick fire?
Go on in.
These are never ever quick fire. So let's see how you go. So, best advice ever received.
Oh, here's a good one. I remember when I first became a dad, and I guess you could apply this to anyone else. Someone said, because obviously, you're going to be a dad, and sort of, everyone is like your mums and people that are 20-year-old giving you sort of advice. And I think it actually applies to business or anything. And of course, we did the big pitch recently, right? So I think it applies to that too. Don't listen to anyone's advice at all unless they've been with it through it within the last 6 weeks.
Nice. I like
Certainly
that.
with anything to do with having kids, I thought that was particularly relevant, but also businesses, especially with pitching for grants and things like that. The landscape changes so much, but I thought that was good advice and I stuck by that. The other one I'd give you, actually, someone said right at the beginning, he said, most important thing is learn how to manage expectations.
Nice.
I've definitely stuck by that. That stood me very well.
Yeah, excellent. AI for or against?
Oh, definitely for.
Nice.
100%.
One piece of tech you couldn't live without?
Oh, so many. My iPhone, my MacBook.
Everyone says the phone.
Chat GPT. Cursor. I mean, yeah. How long you got?
There's plenty there. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
One book or audio book or podcast that you would recommend to somebody?
Oh, podcast. I do like The Rest is Politics.
Yeah.
Big fan of that one. I do like that. Do enjoy that. I suppose, obviously, Stephen Bartlett's podcast, Diary of CEO, big fan of that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Be an obvious example.
If you weren't in tech, what would you be doing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do like teaching, but I guess I teach tech because I know tech. So maybe I'd probably be some sort of a teacher or an instructor or something. I don't know quite what I teach.
But that makes sense.
Do enjoy that, I must admit.
Excellent. Morning routine?
Wake up in bed, usually feed the cats, sit in bed, check emails about 7 o'clock, and then at some point stumble out and then into the inevitable Zoom meeting, isn't it? So I do about 2 or 3 different stand-ups every morning. So that's normally like the routine.
Plug yourself into the matrix.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
What's the one thing you wish you would have done sooner as a leader?
Ooh, as a leader.
Yeah.
I guess maybe learn to say no. I suppose the biggest mistakes over the years where you just kind of take on stuff you shouldn't have done. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? Gosh. It's got to be a bacon butty, isn't it, really?
Oh, lovely.
Great. Yeah.
What takes up most of your time in your day?
Oh, gosh. Zoom meetings.
Yeah. meetings. And the toughest one, if your team had to describe you in 3 words, what would they say?
3 words? Oh, I don't know. The word dad comes around quite a lot.
Yeah.
They've all used that. Charlotte calls me a bike dad. I don't know. I don't know, really. Yeah, it'd be something like that. I mean, I guess very much kind of father figure, that kind of stuff in some ways. Maybe a massive geek. Cat videos. Has to be done. AI cat videos are the way forward. It's the future, everyone.
Brilliant. Okay, great. And that's it. Jason,
Cool.
thanks so much.
No
Appreciate
worries.
it.
Cheers, dude.
Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure.
Great.